Okay guys, so I actually just started this channel with my brother, and I know that we haven't been on this YouTube channel in so long, but it's because we've been doing so much stuff inside of our business with our team, with our clients, to make sure that we're really taking care of the business itself. But we have totally neglected our YouTube channel. We haven't been on here in so long, it's ridiculous. But I know with our business, we've taken a rapid change in some of the things that we've done. And a lot of what we've done is we've started helping a lot of faith-based individuals, so Christians, step into coaching businesses, step into entrepreneurship, and build kingdom-focused businesses that are built with culture and core values dependent on God and Holy Spirit. And it's super important. And I think intertwining your relationship with God with business is super vital. But my brother and I made a really practical, YouTube channel, really focused on helping you, the entrepreneur, grow in skills, in mindsets, in traits. And so I wanted to share that one video from that YouTube channel with you guys, and actually just kind of spread the love to our Robbins Bros channel. So my brother and I, we started a channel. It's called The Robbins Bros. If you actually type that in, at The Robbins Bros, it should be on there. You'll be able to see a bunch of videos where we talk about leadership, skills in entrepreneurship. If you guys are wanting to grow or learn about entrepreneurship at all, or how we've built a business from the ground up multiple times, then that's a channel that I want you to go visit. But either way, I hope you enjoyed this video content today and that you get something out of it. And if not, that's okay. Maybe it's just a cool moment for us to say hi again and let you know that we're still here. We haven't gone anywhere. Hope you enjoy that video, and if you want more, throw that in the comments. Most people have partnered with conditional love in their lives, right? And the conditional love is basically their unwritten contract that people make to themselves to be unhappy with themselves, to not accept themselves, and to withdraw love from themselves until they reach certain standards or have certain behaviors. But that means most of the time you're living life unloved, unaccepted, in hopes of manipulating yourself into having the proper outcomes and behaviors that you want. But it's all for the sole purpose of what? Being enough, being loved. In this video, I want to show you how disqualification and self-rejection is actually one of the #1 reasons why most entrepreneurs fail or never start a business in the first place. Stay tuned. Spencer Robbins. I'm the co-owner of Sales Machine. I am also the owner of Alive and Free Consulting. But let's be honest, you don't even care who I am, right? You care that I make your life better. I teach you something, I entertain you, because that's all you YouTubers care about, right? That's okay. I don't hold it against you. I'm gonna make sure that in this video, everything is extremely valuable and is applicable to you. The truth is that most successful entrepreneurs have this one trait. It's called self-belief. But where does it come from? Does it come from sitting around a fire, singing Kumbaya and speaking out declarations of how great you are? Does it come from looking in the mirror, saying all those things over yourself that your fake guru shaman told you to say right after yoga and breath work? Does self-belief come from just white knuckling your life and just working really hard and just blowing past every emotion you possibly have just to crush it? Or does it come from having a good mommy and daddy that told you growing up, no matter what you do, you're gonna be so good, and I just believe in you. Your mom and dad just love you and believe in you. Is that where it comes from? All those things might work for some people, but in this video, I wanna share with you what worked for me. And I just wanna start by saying I came from a lot of disqualification, a lot of self-rejection, very low self-worth and self-esteem. And so this wasn't just easy for me. I had to go through so many different steps and a lot of internal work to get to the point where I actually had self-belief and was able to start businesses. And yes, I am gonna share all about my experience at Burning Man and having a crazy trip on shrooms. Just kidding, I didn't have any crazy trip on shrooms, still haven't been to Burning Man, probably never will go. So when we had grown to 45 employees in my first business, I realized that I was not as good at leadership as I thought that I was. You know, we'd have these weekly team meetings where we would go over numbers. I would try and share some inspiring stuff for the team, create culture, we would go through different slide decks. But I noticed that our company culture was deteriorating. People were not as inspired. People didn't feel like they were, really running towards a vision and had a ton of direction. People weren't sold out, and the truth is I wasn't sold out on the vision of our company anymore. Although I had a lot of areas to grow in at the time, I noticed that the biggest problem at the time was that I didn't believe in myself. I didn't believe in where we were going either. And at my core, I didn't believe that I had what it takes to lead people. And so I disqualified myself internally. But it was subconscious and I wasn't even aware of this. Now, this wasn't the first time that low self-belief stopped me or hindered me or was a constraint in my life. It actually constrained me when I was an employee. It kept me locked away working for other companies when I could have easily gone out and started a company at the time. I had a lot of skills, but I just was like, I didn't believe in myself. But at the time, I just remember like, I don't have what it takes. And one of the thoughts and beliefs that I had was that people that are successful in business, it's just this lottery ticket that they get to cash in at some point. They just hit the right opportunity. They just had the right lottery ticket that it worked out for them. I used to think, man, 96% of businesses fail by 5 years. That 4% is because they got lucky. And I had no idea that it actually took people believing in themselves to have the perseverance to be able to stick it out and gain the skills and traits necessary to find success, that anybody can do it, but most people quit too early. But at the time, I remember meeting with 3 friends. I remember being so scared and be like, what was the thing that pushed you over the edge? Like, what made it so that you could actually finally quit and jump into business? One dude, he looks at me and he goes, Spencer, I just realized that either I'm an entrepreneur or I'm not. And if I am, then I have to stop living somebody else's life. And I realized that I didn't have a belief in myself that that was a part of my identity and that I would eventually find success in it. I actually believed that I would fail because that was the world I grew up in. And when I'm mentoring entrepreneurs, which I've met with over 600 entrepreneurs and got them started from scratch in their businesses now at this point, I'm realizing that the people that actually go the distance are the ones that have enough self-belief to give them perseverance to just keep going. They don't even need to have the belief that they'll have success quickly. They just need to have the belief that they'll have success eventually, no matter what. It's crazy. I talk to my wife about this all the time. My wife, when she started her first business in consulting, it was like within 3 months, she was already charging $200 an hour and she was full time. And that was from like 300 followers in her Instagram. It wasn't like she had some celebrity or like some vast network to be able to build her business from. The one thing that I would categorize as her reason for success is she had crazy self-belief. Her conviction that she had for, people finding success working with her was so high. She'd go into a meeting with anybody and just know at her core that she'd be able to help them. If you look at the guy that started We Worked, there's an amazing show called We Crashed, and it's basically a show outlining the CEO of We Work. And it's how this business grew from nothing to a multi-billion dollar company very quickly, and it's just with co-working spaces, and he had created this phenomenal culture, and there was so much excitement and so much energy, and he didn't even have that many skill sets in business whatsoever. He had crazy conviction, crazy vision, and crazy self-belief. To a degree, he might have even been sociopathic. There's something about the fact that this guy had crazy self-belief that led him to this place, and I've noticed that that's one of the strongest traits of leadership. But one of the things I look at with my wife is like, man, why does she have so much self-belief? Do some people just have self-belief and others don't? And I think we're always looking for some hierarchy to be able to disqualify ourselves and qualify other people. Well, I noticed for her, the reason she had so much self-belief is because she had a very weak parenting growing up. There's like more than 8 divorces between her parents, and she had to grow up at a very young age. She learned to have lots of different things taken care of by herself. I think because so many people don't want to face the fact that they have to grow in traits and grow in mindsets and grow in beliefs, they want to just say some people have this, some people don't. This is a personality trait. And I think we like to invalidate and validate based on these categories so that we don't have to go on any level of journey or progress. But the truth is that you can actually learn self-belief just like you can learn in your life low self-belief and low self-esteem. So what do you do if you're struggling with internal disqualification? Let's say you think that you're just a failure. You think that anything you apply your hand to, you suck at. No matter what, there's something uniquely different about you. You just won't find success. Well, the first thing that I did in my life, and this was actually through a lot of coaching and counseling, like I've had so many mentors in my life, specifically with my internal stuff, because I came from a lot of internal trauma. I learned to become an external performer, but internally I still felt like I was a failure, a piece of crap. I still felt like I was the chubby kid on the playground that wasn't gonna make any friends. And so what I did was I thought that I could just perform my way externally into finally believing that I was good enough. but it never worked. But when I found relief and I found success, it was because I'd gone on this, honestly, like 6 or 7 year journey of getting free from disqualification. And one of the things that I did was I actually had to isolate what the voice of disqualification sounded like in my life. What were the statements that it would make to me? Again, for me, disqualification sounded like, you're never gonna make it. There's something uniquely wrong with you. You're a problem. You're a failure. You don't have what it takes. And the list goes on. And so I had to unpack, where did I learn those things? Did that come from mom? Did it come from dad? Did it come from the school system? You know, what were the sources that actually taught me? Were they experiences? Were they different moments? Like growing up, as children, we have a narcissistic lens where we just believe everything's about us. So we see ourselves as the center of the world. We see ourselves as the center of the universe. So if our parents are having struggles as a 7-year-old, we will internalize that and make it our fault. And so even if there weren't people telling you that you were disqualified or that there's a problem with you, sometimes we actually just make up those narratives internally to save ourselves from the pain of putting ourselves out there. But at my core, what I actually believed was that if I fail in general, and this was because of the way that I grew up with my parents, I got a lot of affirmation and enjoyment and excitement from my parents and from people and from society when I was successful in something, which was academics for me. When I failed in other areas, I was met with a lot of disappointment or just nothingness. And so I started to have a core conviction internally that if I failed, I'm not lovable. But if I win and I'm successful and if I have accomplishments, then I am lovable. But what happened was that external conditional love that I received from external sources had actually become internalized. And I started using conditional love to dangle love like a carrot in front of me, never actually being able to do enough to get it. It was just always just far enough in front of me to try and keep me moving forward, to keep directing me. Conditional love is the unwritten contract that you make to yourself to withhold love and to punish yourself until you hit certain standards that you've agreed to hit in order to receive love after you've hit those standards. We do that to manipulate ourselves. But what happens in the long run is that those standards always keep increasing and getting further and further away, and we never hit them. And then we live an entire life unloved, unaccepted, and with a lot of hatred. That is a deep place of not being fulfilled. One of the things that Tony Robbins says is he says that the worst form of failure is not to fail in general, it's to find ultimate success without fulfillment. People that actually have the most self-acceptance and self-belief, they actually don't live life high stakes. They don't have this huge fear of failing. They can fail multiple times and it doesn't hold any weight on their identity, doesn't hold any weight on their self-worth. And guess what? Making it or breaking it in business doesn't feel terrifying. Because at their core, they believe even if they fail, they are not a failure. But what we were meant to learn as children was that what we do matters, but who we are matters more. Now, this is kind of where all that kumbaya, Burning Man, self-love, yoga stuff, people gravitate towards that, and it's almost honestly like this fake love stuff that kind of makes me throw up in my mouth. Most of the self-love out there and the healing things that people talk about and all the things that entrepreneurs are talking about, it's surface level, it's not deep, and it's usually some fabricated form of self-love that's not even real. I won't get too psychological here, but my first company was an emotional health company. I went through a 10-year extensive process with dozens of counselors, coaches, working on myself. I wanted to grow, I wanted to heal and all these things that I'm talking about right now. I wanted to feel fulfilled internally. I wanted to love my life. I wanted to feel joy. I ran after learning how to feel again. And after 10 years of working through things, like I got insanely healthy to the point where I got married, I have a baby now, and I'm actually connected to my life and I love my life. That doesn't mean that I'm without my ups and downs, but this is the journey that I'm on, is I want to be connected to myself and the success that I experience. But for me, getting free from disqualification actually looked like taking ownership for the ways that I've hated myself. You know, we've experienced rejection from all different sources, our parents, kids on the playground growing up, friends. The biggest form of rejection that hits the hardest is your own rejection of yourself. I had to take ownership for the versions of myself that didn't meet my standards, that I hated, that I rejected, and I shamed. I decided, you are a piece of crap. I decided there are versions of myself, I'm like, you're disgusting, and I never want to be that version of you ever again, Spencer, because you're not lovable. You are only lovable when you make the right decisions. You're only lovable when you make the right behaviors. And I believe that there is actually a core need in every human being, And inside of us, there's honestly a little boy or little girl that's still screaming for a parent to fully accept them, even in their worst. Am I lovable even in my worst? Am I lovable when I make mistakes? Am I lovable if I don't get it right? And most people, because they never get that, spend most of their lives running away from the versions of themselves that they believe are unworthy of love. And therefore they are focusing on just performing the right way so that the world will accept them in the ways that they will never accept themselves. It's why most people work so hard to make lots of money or find achievement. It's the reason why so many professional athletes will never be successful or enjoy their success until they win everything. It's why people are utterly distraught after they are rejected in relationships. When relationships fail, they feel devastated. It's why people take their lives after relationships fail. It's why there's eating disorders, addictions to, different narcotics and alcohol. People that are addicted to achievement hate the part of themselves that fails. People addicted to fitness and eating clean, they hate the fat person inside of themselves that they believe is responsible for their own rejection. People that are addicted to different types of substance abuse, they're running away from the emotions that they believe make them unlovable, like shame. The truth is that I actually had to face chubby 12-year-old Spencer that I believed was responsible for all of my rejection growing up. I was socially awkward, and so I blamed that little 12-year-old boy inside of myself for all of the aloneness that I experienced for so many years of my life. And hating that part of me actually led to an external performance. I learned to be the funny guy in school. I learned to perform in relationships. I lost 100 pounds because I hated myself. I got all of this external success, but internally, I still saw that chubby kid in the mirror and hated him every single day of my life. And even when I got an 8-pack in the mirror, I was still never good enough. And I still hated myself. And I couldn't even enjoy the compliments and the experience that I had in that new body. Hating that part of myself led me to not take certain risks in my life because it felt too scary. It led me to end up bulimic after throwing up after meals and trying to hit these standards, these impossible standards that I placed on myself. It led me to giving 5 hours away to working out every single day, and I didn't make friends. I didn't have a whole lot of community because I spent 5 hours in the gym every single day and was addicted to eating perfect, and there was so much of my life that I didn't enjoy. The other person I had to face was bulimic Spencer. I thought throwing up after meals, I thought that version of myself was so disgusting. I didn't even know any men that struggled with bulimia. And so I was like, there's something uniquely wrong with you. And I had to learn to love the part of myself that still threw up after meals. I had to learn to see him and understand the pain that he was going through and have compassion towards him. And ultimately, we have to learn to have compassionate lenses towards ourselves in our worst. I also had to face Spencer that used to be addicted to porn. I grew up in a religious home. I grew up around Christianity. I grew up believing, because of a twisted version of religion, that I was bad and evil and I should be ashamed for looking at porn. And I do apologize to that version of myself for shaming, judging, and accusing him and condemning him. Because that addiction came at one of the worst forms of pain during my life, that I had so much aloneness, I had so much rejection, I had no friends. I also had to learn to love the version of myself that actually became, a person that preached at people, that was like a Bible thumper, that just talked at people. I wasn't even loving people, I was just preaching my Christian faith at people. And so years and years later, I judged that part of myself instead of recognizing the fact that I was doing the best I knew how in that season, and I was running far from all of these behaviors, and religion gave me a sense of security in that season. But now I know that that wasn't the appropriate way to love people. And here's the thing that we do. We don't want to love ourselves because we believe that unconditionally loving ourselves in our worst is going to give ourselves permission to have those behaviors and outcomes. And we believe that as a result, we will not change. But the truth is, most of those behaviors and a lot of those cycles and patterns are a result of feeling bankrupted in the area of your heart feeling loved. Most people only have those habits and those things that happen in their lives because they're searching for love. It's a vicious cycle. I'm not loved, so I do this thing. I hate myself for doing that thing, and so therefore I need more love. But I go to this thing because, right? It's like the cycle keeps going. So the root of my problems was not the behavior or the acting out in different areas or the failures. The root of my behaviors was not being loved, not loving myself. And I needed to own the fact that I was the chief perpetrator against myself in this area. And I couldn't blame everybody else around me anymore. I had to own the fact that I was a shitty person to myself. And the truth is that your greatest creativity, your greatest accomplishments, and the ones that you can feel and connect with and actually be proud of yourself for will come when you are connected to yourself, you're connected to hope, you're connected to joy, and you're connected to you. And when at your core, you believe you're loved and you believe that you're enough. One of my favorite movies is Good Will Hunting. And for the first reason is because of the 120 F-bombs that are in it.
I will end you. I will end you.
But the second reason, because of how relatable it felt. I mean, here's this other genius just like me. I'm just kidding. But you have this guy that is a genius, right? This guy, Will, who he's honestly a true math genius, English genius. He has a photographic memory. I mean, you watch him with these crazy skills. He has a genius level IQ, but he constantly lives below his potential. He happens to be a janitor, but he decides to be a janitor at this prestigious, like the most prestigious math college in the entire US. Also, he could solve these incredible math problems, but he never wanted to be recognized and he never wanted it to lead to any type of potential or any opportunities. He chose to be friends with guys that were poor and made nothing. And he chose to limit himself to never going after anything. That includes being vulnerable enough to have intimate relationship where somebody would see inside of him, because that felt far too risky for someone to see how much he hated himself. He sabotaged every single opportunity that came his way. He actually believed at his core that he was responsible for all the pain and tragedy that he experienced in his life, all of the failures, all of the pain in foster homes with his family growing up. He blamed himself for all those different things, and he thought there was something uniquely wrong with him. He thought he was the problem. He believed that he was unlovable. It took a father figure, Robin Williams, that was able to see him and father him in ways that he never had received it before. It took a father seeing past all the giftings, the skill sets, the genius level IQ, to see the scared and hurt and broken little boy that actually needed to be loved in his worst. He needed to be seen in the bruises and all of the trauma that he'd experienced in his past and still be loved in that place. So what do you do with all this? Well, besides going to Burning Man and having a gnarly shroom trip, you need to ask yourself, where have I already rejected and abandoned myself? And why? And you may have to face the fact that you've been your greatest accuser. And you might be restricting yourself because of your own lack of self-belief, which came from your own self-hatred, self-rejection, the ways that you've abused yourself. And until you own that yourself, you'll never be able to reconcile. Anyone can find success. It takes acquiring the right skills and the right traits. You just have to be committed to playing the game of business in order to win. But that takes people that have enough self-belief to keep going. And also people are willing to fail over and over and over again. And guess what? You probably need to love yourself in the midst of failures to keep going and have that type of longevity. If there was a soccer game nearby, I'd rather be sucking on the field than watching in the sidelines. I'm in this not just for the immediate result that business gives me, but because of the person that I want to become as a result of the vehicle of business. And I'm going to play as long as I need to keep growing. At the end of the day, you can let your internal deficits and inadequacies and self-hatred drive you. I see a lot of people that find external success because of self-hatred. And a lot of the things that I was talking about, people that find crazy external success, but at the end of their lives, they still are unfulfilled. They have all of this massive money, wealth, performance, they have genius level IQs, all of these external things that they thought that was gonna finally fulfill them and satisfy them, but they still feel internally bankrupted because they've never been able to actually engage love in the parts of themselves that they've hated all along. And they've been running as fast as they can away from the parts of themselves that they refuse to face. And I personally want my wealth and my success to be a manifestation of how truly successful I am internally, how rich I am internally. And I want to believe that I'm enough and fully loved and secure at my core. What do you want? If you want more content like this, my brother and I put out videos just like this every single week. Hit that subscribe button so that you can get those videos showing up, hit the notification bell, and throw us a like if you actually liked this video. We create this content for free for you guys, but it would really help us to get some love thrown back our way. Appreciate you guys for watching this stuff. We'll see you on the next video.